He looks at his loot and says that the guild charges too much commission and he can barely make any money. He was going to sell all these stones in a black market at higher price and get rich quickly. Thinking of this, the man goes outside, but he is not aware that someone is waiting for him there. A confident and arrogant woman named Leonie is waiting for the man. She is the captain of the main team of the H-Warring Guild and she was on duty to capture the thief. She has now caught the man red-handed while stealing the bloodstones and she is angry at him for betraying the guild. She insults him saying that he was a lowly man who would betray the guild for just a little money. But she was going to follow due process and asks him to peacefully surrender and come with her for his trial. But the man does not think that he would be better off by surrendering. He is nervous and cannot think straight, but he does not want to be caught. He thinks that it was his bad luck that Leonie was the one sent after him and he cannot get away from her so easily. But he decides to take his chance. He would use all his strength to create an opening and then run away. He launches an attack by summoning magic ice bullets at Leonie, but she easily dodges his attack. He uses this chance to run away, but she immediately catches him and says that since he did not want to undergo trial, she would deliver judgment right now. She unsheathes her sword and kills the man. Just as her work is finished and she plans to go back to report it, Leonie receives a text. It is from one of the entrances of a dungeon under her guild. Someone entered the dungeon without authorization and cleared it. But they cannot find anything else about him and they need her help to investigate the case. Leonie is now curious about the daredevil who went into a dungeon by himself illegally. But Woojin is already out of the subway station and back on his way home. He is waiting at a bus stop but he has forgotten which bus would he take to reach home. So he decides to walk around and find the place by asking people. But as he is walking, he thinks about the recent changes that had happened in the world. He was only gone for 5 years and it already had its share of monsters and magic. In some sense this world was becoming like Alphen, the world where he was summoned. Woojin is worried about his family, thinking about the changes. He hopes that all the people in his family are safe and healthy. And then he recognizes that he was on a very familiar road, the road that led to his house. He goes to the place where his house was and is shocked to find a giant corporate building at that location. His house had gone away and he had no idea where to start looking for his family. But it was getting dark and Woojin was at a loss in more than one way. He decides to give up looking for his family today and would try using a different method tomorrow. His stomach growls and Woojin realizes that he had not eaten anything since he came to this world, and now he was getting hungry. He goes to a fast food joint to eat noodles and is content after eating a bowl. Thanks to the money he borrowed from Eamon, he could fill his stomach. He had missed this food in Alphen too, but then he thinks about the next problem in front of him. Where was he going to spend the night? If he had some more money, he could find lodging at a cafe. They were cheap and had everything from food stalls to a bath. But he does not have money for that and neither does he know anyone in that line. He thinks that in that case he could go to a subway station and sleep on a bench, and then he remembers that there were monsters there. He is dejected and hopes that something happens soon. His wish is answered, as at the same time someone he knew enters the shop. Eamon comes to the fast food joint to have dinner as he had only a little amount of money right now. He had given 5,001 to Woojin and now he could not afford anything but noodles for dinner. He was thinking about how Woojin was a weird and crazy person when he finds him sitting on a stool there. He is as shocked on seeing him as Woojin is happy on seeing him again. Woojin does not waste time and greets Eamon. He asks him if he lived with his parents and were they home. Eamon does not understand what Woojin means, but he says that both his parents were dead and he lived alone. Woojin slips up and says that was a good thing, but then he immediately corrects himself. His way is now clear and he asks Eamon to let him stay at his house for the night. Eamon is taken aback by his mannerlessness, but Woojin says that he was not going to stay with him for free, he would pay the rent. He gives Eamon the change he received after eating and Eamon realizes that it was actually his own money. But as he is thinking how to refuse Woojin, he feels a fist coming at his face at full speed and then it stops. Woojin had spotted a fly and took care of it in his way. Eamon is too terrified at what he just saw, or did not see, and decides to let him stay at his house. Woojin is grateful and promises Eamon that he would pay him back in full soon. The next day, Woojin starts looking for his family again and he knows exactly where to start. He visits his school and meets a teacher he knew. The teacher is surprised on finding him alive and asks where he had been. He had suddenly disappeared one day 5 years ago and then there was no news of him. Everyone had taken him for dead. Woojin says that it was a long story. But to explain it simply, he met with an accident and nearly died. But now he was fine and had returned home, and he needed the help of his teacher to find his family's address. He asks the permission to check the student records for that reason. In the school, Eamon is being cornered by the bullies from yesterday. They are annoyed at him and think that he was saved because of the crazy guy yesterday. They surround him at his desk and tell him that he better not think that he was safe now. Eamon is quite calm and tells them that he understood what they wanted. He would settle it today, but he wanted no commotion in class. The leader of the bullies gets angry at his confidence and pulls his hair. He is about to slam Eamon's head on the desk when Woojin arrives at the class. He stops the bully and then says that he had quite a good timing. The bullies are all shocked on finding him here, and Woojin asks them to follow him. He takes them to the roof of the school, and apart from the bully gang, other students also come to see the drama. The crowd has gathered and they start talking about the man. He was a senior who studied in this school 5 years ago. There are only rumors, but most people have heard that he had beaten the bullies yesterday and planned to do it again today. Most students do not believe that he could face against all of them even if he was strong. But Woojin proves them wrong quickly, as none of the main bullies' attack hit him. He casually dodges them while the boy curses him. Woojin thinks that people like him were found in every world, both in Earth and on Alphen. He remembers a man named Cassis of the Alphen Alliance. He was an annoying man who was overconfident in his abilities and tried to suppress others. He had made terrible allegations on Woojin back in Alphen and called him names. He was called the Necromancer of Massacre and the Sorcerer of Depravity. Cassis tried his best to instigate others against Woojin, and he succeeded in doing that. Because of that, those people invaded his territory and surrounded him, planning to kill him. The main bully here is really frustrated as he cannot hit Woojin even once, and the latter makes fun of him. He shouts at the boys with him and asks them to back him up. He was confident that they could not lose to him if they attacked him together. Everyone listens to what he says and they attack Woojin, but he wanted that. He knows what is the only solution to get rid of the problem of bullying. They had to be shown their place. If they were treated the way they treated others and met with an overwhelming force that they could do nothing against, the bullies would remember it for a lifetime. That was exactly what he did with Cassis. He remembers the scene after he had defeated everyone who invaded his territory along with Cassis. He defeated all of them and walked away as they lay on the ground. And he is about to do the same with the overconfident kids here. He smacks all of them, and it only takes one hit from him for them to give up fighting. Only the leader of the bullies is left for the last, and Woojin taunts him to attack him again. But as he tries to vent out his frustration using a desperate attack, Woojin beats him too. But as Woojin is finished teaching a lesson to the delinquents, he notices a taxi that stopped at the school gate. A woman comes running out of the taxi and Woojin immediately recognizes her. The worried woman who is running to the school office was no one else but her mother. Woojin rushes downstairs to meet her, and their reunion is very emotional. She hugs him and cries, saying that she was really relieved to get him back. It was a miracle that he was alive and well. Woojin is also very emotional and happy to get back to her. Then she explains what had happened with the world. Right after he disappeared in 2016, something terrible happened at the global scale. Every subway in every country suddenly turned into a dungeon, spawning dangerous monsters. This incident was called the Dungeon Shock, and it changed the world forever. In one such subway station, Woojin's father died while he was returning home from work. With his death, all the responsibility of the family fell on her. Her son had recently disappeared, and now her husband had also died in unfortunate circumstances. Woojin's mother had to deal with the grief and take care of the financial condition to look after her younger daughter Sua. They were never a rich family, but with the death of the only earning member, they were pushed to lower their living standards. Another blow came for them when Sua fell sick. She was only 8 years old then, and looking after her and paying the medical bills took a toll on the woman. She had only seen hardships and tough times since Woojin had disappeared. But she takes him back to home and tells him to wait here while she picked up his little sister from school. She leaves and Woojin looks around their new home. It was way too small to accommodate their family. Looking around the small house and the condition it was in, Woojin realizes the burden her mother had carried alone and the struggles she had gone through. He looks around the room, and in one corner he finds a pile of boxes. All of them were filled with his father's belongings. His mother could not bear to throw them away, and Woojin understood why. When he looked at them, his heart felt heavy, and he thought how much more painful it would have been for his mother. His mother returns home after picking up his sister Sua from school. She is a shy girl and is only 12 years old now. She was 7 when Woojin went missing, and now she is a bit cautious around him. Their mother tells her to greet her big brother nicely, and they have a nice and wholesome family moment. Their mother has taken the day off and starts preparing food for her returned son. At night, the family of 3 is sleeping, but Woojin cannot fall asleep. He is thinking about various things: his family, the condition of the world, and about Alphen. He did not know for what reason was he summoned to that world, and no one ever told him anything about it. But it was a weird world, almost like a game. There were different terrains and monsters to fight. People could learn skills and abilities and magic. But it was not easy like a game. It took guts and effort to survive in that cutthroat world, and Woojin did whatever he could do for that reason. He was desperate and did not hesitate in doing whatever was needed to live. As a result, he became powerful quickly. He became a Necromancer, and a max-level Necromancer at that. After 20 years in Alphen, when he finally met the requirements, Woojin met a being known as Dimensional Administrator. Dimensional Administrator looked after the balance between different worlds and could move people from one world to another. And Woojin had asked it to return him to Earth. And he did it all so that he could be reunited with his family. He had hoped to live nothing more than an ordinary life in this world, leaving behind everything he was in Alphen. He wanted ordinary boredom and ordinary happiness, but this was something else. The world had changed, and so had his family's conditions. Even though the world was not his responsibility, his family was. And to look after them, he quickly needed to earn a lot of money, and to support his family might prove to be tougher than living in Alphen. The next day, Woojin starts his quest to earn money. The first thing he does is to buy a smartphone. He thinks about what the man at the entrance of the dungeon had asked him. It was about being an awakened. The security officer had asked him that he was not a civilian, and thus he had to fill a form about his visit to the dungeon. Most probably, being an awakened was the quickest way to make money. Woojin leaves his house and texts his mother that he was going to live with a friend in a nearby area. He thinks that this would put less stress on his mother as he looked for money. He planned to live with his only friend in this world right now, and that was Yemen. He was concerned that he was getting one more favor from Yemen, but that was not a problem as long as he planned to return it in full. He decides to call him before going to his house, but someone else picks up the call. Woojin is shocked on learning that Yemen fooled him and gave him a wrong number. Yemen is returning home, and he is thinking about Woojin. He had saved him not only once but twice, and thanks to him the bullies did not mess with him. His actions had benefited him for long term, yet he had not been able to properly thank him. But he is utterly shocked to find Woojin inside his home eating food. He asks him how did he get it, and Woojin says that he saw him while he was entering his password the other day and remembered it. Yemen says that was trespassing and it was a crime. If he wanted to come here, he should have asked him before. Woojin says that he tried to ask him by calling him, but it turned out that the number was a wrong one. Yemen is taken aback that he was now caught and decides to not push Woojin further. But then Woojin comes to business and asks Yemen what he knew about being an awakened. Apparently Woojin was one, and Yemen is shocked on hearing this, but he should have realized it earlier considering his strength. He tells Woojin what he knows about awakened and confirms that it was a way to earn huge amount of money. Woojin is excited and asks more about the details, and Yemen tells him to register with the Awakened Association to be able to enter dungeons. He could also join a guild to make things easier for himself. There were people who cleared the dungeons for the loots and rewards they found, and there were those awakened who worked at the association. But Woojin does not like the idea of joining a guild or working with the association. He says that the best way to earn more money was if he cleared a dungeon alone. But Yemen says that even though he could earn more money, it was dangerous to go into a dungeon. Having a guild would be good as they could provide support and facilities to their members. But Woojin says that he does not have any time to waste by applying with the guilds. He would have to take exams and need to go through formalities, but all he wanted was to earn money quickly. Yemen tells Woojin that even if he wanted to minimize formalities and keep most of the rewards for himself, he should at least become part of a party. That would be better for him and he could earn money more efficiently. But first, he had to download an app that would keep him updated about all the new information about dungeons in the area. It would tell him about all the dungeons, their ratings, and the monsters that spawn in them. Woojin is having some problem with downloading the app, and Yemen takes it in his own hands. He tells Woojin that his phone was an old model and he thinks that someone in his family must be using it. It was slow and its software was outdated. Woojin is shocked on hearing this as he was told by the salesman that this was the latest model and he was getting a huge discount on that. He is angry and decides that he will take care of that liar later. Yemen has downloaded the app Dungeon Forum on his phone and shows it to Woojin. He could get all the information about dungeons here and could even reserve a time slot for entering it. But that would come later, and he should go to the Awakened Association to get registered as soon as possible. Woojin is ready to go to register immediately, but Yemen tells him that he needed to pay fees to enter the dungeon.